What's going on, guys? MTS here. So today I want to show you guys some very simple steps that I took to instantly enhance my handheld gaming sessions by creating a mini mobile gaming station, as I like to call it, because it offers a good deal of flexibility while enhancing immersion and comfort for those extended play sessions when I don't have the luxury to park in front of my TV or my desk for hours at a time uninterrupted. This setup allows me to effortlessly shift in between my Switch 2 and PC handhelds, like the Steam Deck or the Legion Go, and I made it a key focus to minimize cable and wire clutter or the time it takes to shift from a more stationary setup to one that could honestly follow you to the bed if you fancy that. But before I get into some of the finer details and accessories, I want to quickly talk about how I ended up going down this rabbit hole to begin with. You see, back when the Switch 2 first dropped, I instantly fell in love with the all-new magnetic Joy-Cons, the quick detach system, the improved footprint, the enhanced HD rumble, so I found myself wanting to play in tabletop mode more often than I ever had with my Switch OLED. But if we're going to be honest here, Nintendo has made a couple of questionable decisions on this device that over time are starting to come more to the forefront. The first being the LCD display that does leave a lot to be desired, given that colors aren't super electric and vibrant, and despite having VRR support, the Switch 2's built-in display panel isn't exactly the king of motion. And my second gripe over time, after extended use, is how Nintendo went about this proprietary handshake USB-C protocol. Yes, the Switch 2's bottom USB-C port has DisplayPort video out capability, but it sure doesn't act like an ordinary video display port, as we know, making it increasingly difficult to upgrade your display and your overall gaming experience on the go without toting around their expensive official Switch 2 dock. So I don't know, I guess part of this path I went down is me seeing this as a challenge or an obstacle to overcome. So anyway, early on, I started brainstorming ways I could add a sharp, high contrast portable screen into the mix. And I experimented with Red Magic's all-new 9-inch OLED tablet known as the Astra by utilizing a video capture card to essentially mirror the screen. I'm not gonna lie, that setup was low-key pretty awesome, and it worked much better than I expected. But even though the picture looked great, there were some technical details that I was missing out on that have been bugging me of late. The biggest issues was that the video capture card limited my video output to 1080p at 60 Hz, and it removed the ability to take advantage of HDR. We'll insert the UPERFECT O2 16-inch portable OLED monitor, and all of that has changed. I can now not only utilize HDR for all of my handhelds, even those that don't support it for the built-in display, but I'm now getting the full 120Hz refresh rate on Cyberpunk on Switch 2, and the performance mode is unlocked, as it is on a high refresh rate TV or monitor. If you're someone that uses the Switch or any other handheld for hours at a time daily, and you occasionally experience neck pain, eye strain, or if your eyes are simply very sensitive to motion, which we know is not the strong suit of the Switch 2, then this monitor is going to change everything. And I think something like this is a great investment to make because it can literally grow with your setup over time as you upgrade and swap out hardware. Now the Color O2 has a total screen size of 16 inches and it measures 14 inches in width, about 9.5 inches in height, and has a thickness of roughly 0.15 inches. The 16x10 panel itself provides exceptional viewing angles with an overall resolution of 2880 by 1800p, and it is incredibly glossy, which is how I like my OLEDs, so the 100 DCI P3 color gamut can truly be realized and appreciated. Now there are two versions of the Color O2, both share identical specs and performance, with the difference primarily being the placement of the VESTA screw holes over on the back. I have version A that you're looking at here, but if you can land version B, I'd recommend that model if you're looking to attach it to a more traditional VESTA mount system, because UPERFECT's adjustable base mount is slightly visible from the front given the lower screw hole placement on version A. However, on the flip side, I do think UPERFECT's swivel kickstand will provide better viewing angles for version A versus version B. Anyway, on the lower left-hand corner, there are 5 monitor control physical buttons. From top to bottom, we have the power button, the menu/select button, the arrow up navigation button, arrow down navigation button, and finally the back button. This monitor's default color calibration has been working really well for me so far, so I haven't felt the need to tweak a whole lot of these settings, but I do have HDR set to auto, which will lock the brightness meter, which is the reason you see it grayed out here. And I also recommend changing the aspect ratio setting from auto to wide if you want to eliminate black bars for the Switch 2 on this 16x10 display. Now, as awesome as the Color O2 OLED panel has been performing so far, It unfortunately does not have FreeSync or G-Sync support, which I know is a bummer. But if you do your research, you'll quickly realize that VRR on an OLED dedicated portable monitor is extraordinarily hard to find, which on a side note is part of the reason why the Legion Go 2 is so expensive. But I do love the fact that this UPERFECT model does have full HDR support with a 100,000 to 1 contrast ratio. And as previously mentioned, it works incredibly well for Cyberpunk 2077 on Switch 2 and for HDR supported PC titles such as A Plague Tale Requiem, Stellar Blade, and Ori and the Will of the Wisp. And I just love seeing that HDR badge pop up on SteamOS when it's active for supported titles. Now there are a total of 3 ports on this monitor that are all located on the lower right hand side. From top to bottom, we have a mini HDMI 2.1 port, and then we have 2 USB-C 3.1, both supporting video, charging, and data transmission. Power draw for this monitor is roughly 16 watts, as it unfortunately does not have a built-in battery. However, the monitor does support reverse charging for up to 30 watts. So for example, with a single cable going into the bottom USB-C port from a PD charger or from a power bank, that will be enough to power the monitor and to deliver a sizable amount of power to your external device that's connected to the top USB-C port. This means that no matter what, the Nintendo Switch 2 will be fully charged while you game. And in my experience across PC handhelds, if you have a TDP setting of 25 watts or more, battery life will be significantly enhanced with the reverse charging. On a fully charged device, if you're gaming while you're charging, you could see a slow drain of about 5 to 10% on battery per hour without any additional supplemental power. However, this is a serious improvement over running off of the device inbuilt battery alone. Okay, before I move along to the accessories for the mini GameStation, I want to quickly call out some fine print details that you need to be aware of where specs and performance are concerned for this OLED portable monitor. Number 1, definitely keep in mind that the mini HDMI port supports a max resolution of 1800p at 100 Hz. However, a lower resolution on the HDMI port will accommodate the full 120. The 2 USB-C ports, on the other hand, can support the 120 Hz natively for all resolutions up to 1800p, assuming that the game can support it as well. Number 2, on Windows, the refresh rate would default to 100 Hz, and the color bit supported will be 10-bit for both HDR and SDR content. However, when 120 is manually selected, the color bit drops down from 10 to 8-bit for both HDR and SDR content. And lastly, on SteamOS or Bazzite, you may notice that the refresh rate appears to be locked at 100 Hz if you have your resolution on the system level set to automatic. But if you manually change the resolution on the system level from 1800p at 120, 120 will then be unlocked. Also, be aware that manually changing the resolution in this way may lock the resolution to 1800p for some in-game resolutions if full screen mode is not selected. But with full screen settings in game, you should be able to adjust the in-game resolution as needed. For me, I keep my system level resolution to 1800p and I run my games at 1200p for most titles. So for the mini GameStation, I'll start with the tabletop itself. You can pick this up on Amazon and it comes in both black or gray, and it can serve as a laptop desk, dinner tray, you name it. What makes this fit really well for this application is it's incredibly compact and it has an adjustable height from 15 to 21 inches. It can also support up to 120 pounds, and the U-shaped legs can easily slide underneath a couch or a bed. It even has a swivel cup holder, which I use to store extra cables, additional dongles, and adapters. Now mounted underneath the table with Velcro, I have the SharGeek 170 power bank. So if the GameStation is not near an outlet, the battery bank can power both the monitor and external device. I can even plug the external device to the power bank as well to supply even more power beyond the 30 reverse charging limitation. And as you can see, this power bank has a massive digital screen that will tell you how many watts are going in and out and the estimated time before depletion. Now for the monitor support stand, I'm using the Mechanism gaming pillow. This stand supports various configurations designed for handhelds, but it also supports VESA mounting directly to the ball joint, or alternatively via a universal adhesive clip like you're looking at here. I chose this gaming pillow over a traditional monitor stand because it offers better stability on softer surfaces like a couch or bed. I also experimented with attaching the power bank to the game pillow by adding a Mechanism clip. But after some time, I did start to feel that the power bank added too much weight to the pillow stand, and the large digital display was so close to the screen that it started to feel distracting. So I decided to simply keep the power bank off to the side when I'm not using the main tabletop. I then removed the mechanism attachment clip, which just pops out, and I added a piece of Velcro in its stead. I then added Velcro to the back of the Switch case itself, so the console doesn't slide around on me when I'm using the pillow as a standalone. Okay, so a major goal of this setup was to make it super easy to remove the gaming pillow from the main table without losing any functionality. To that end, I decided to go with this portable mini Switch 2 dock combined with the U-shaped mini HDMI to HDMI adapter, so the dock is always with the gaming pillow wherever I move it. And check this out, I even attached the mini dock to the D-brand kill switch adapter to give the Switch a cleaner look when used with the main setup. Can't believe how good it turned out. I simply attached the high-spec right-angle 120Hz USB-C adapter to the bottom USB-C port, and then I attached the mini dock USB-C directly to that. And just like that, I can drop the Switch 2 on the D-brand adapter and it acts as its own stand and TV dock system. But unlike the official dock, I can simply detach that white cable and go. Anyway, I picked up this mini dock on Amazon and it's been working very well up until this point, and it can support up to 4K at 144Hz as claimed. I actually own 2 of these docks, but I want to warn you guys that HDR is fundamentally broken on the 60Hz version, which is the first one that I bought when the Switch 2 first dropped. So I don't know if this is a lottery thing or if a firmware or hardware adjustment was made on a newer batch of units. But either way, if you pick up this mini dock and find that the colors are way off when HDR is enabled, definitely don't hesitate to get it swapped out. Of course, you could use the official Nintendo dock as well for this setup, but you'll be confined to the full mini GameStation at all times because you can't easily carry it around with you with the gaming pillow as with the third-party option that's always attached. However, a good way to make the official dock feel a little more portable is to add an HDMI 2.1 and a USB-C male-to-female extension cable directly to the Switch 2 dock. You can set up a separate HDMI cable and charger for 2 TVs, for example, and quickly swap the dock back and forth without having to fumble with the backplate. Okay, so getting a bit more under the hood over on the back, I'm using a number of U-shaped adapters to help tidy up the cables by routing them behind the panel. And to make things a little easier to follow, I color-coded the cables. Now first off, the white non-detachable USB-C cable coming from the mini dock connects to either the D-brand adapter or to the bottom USB-C port of the Switch 2. This is what interprets and translates Nintendo's proprietary handshake so the video signal can be transmitted to the monitor. The red labeled USB-C male-to-female cable is what powers the Switch 2 third-party dock, while this higher spec blue USB-C male-to-male cable serves 2 different purposes depending on the device I'm using. When I'm using the Switch 2, the blue cable connects directly to the Switch cable to power the mini dock. And when using a PC handheld, I disconnect the blue cable and plug it directly into the PC console, and that will transmit both video from PC to monitor and power from monitor to PC, which is all made possible by the third and the final USB-C male-to-female cable, which powers the monitor itself, and it allows the monitor to supply 30 watts of reverse charging. So in short, when jumping back and forth between the Switch 2 and other devices, I only need to move that single blue USB-C cable between them. Alternatively, you can simply move the white mini dock cable back and forth between PC and Switch, as it works for both. But I like using the dedicated USB-C port for PC because it supports the higher specs than the mini HDMI port. But micro details aside, the best thing about this setup is I don't have to move the table around with me if I want to move to a different location. So I can position the setup in a comfy corner in the living room, for example, and then detach the pillow stand when I'm ready to game upstairs. This is an excellent setup for consoles with detachable controllers such as the Switch and the Legion Go, but it also works really well for devices that have fixed controllers. I've really been enjoying gaming with the Legion Go S in hand while the picture is being transmitted to the 3K OLED monitor, and it's really cool having the front-firing speakers blast right up at me, giving me sort of a DualSense kind of vibe, which makes for a much more immersive audio experience over using the back-firing monitor speakers themselves, because they're definitely on the tinny side. Earbuds, headset, or neckband speaker is a much better solution for the setup, or you can use the 3.5mm jack that's on your external device. But I've actually been using the SteelSeries 7X wireless via a 2.5 GHz band by connecting the dongle directly to each external device. Now obviously, a setup like this isn't meant to replace traditional handheld gaming, nor is it trying to compete with the more premium experience of gaming on a high-end OLED TV from the comfort of your couch. Rather, I see something like this more intended to supplement your gaming lifestyle. Now with that said, I do have a couple of nitpicks and features that I would love to see on UPERFECT's next offering for their OLED portable monitor. Replacing the current mini HDMI port with a full-size HDMI port could potentially improve stability and durability in the long run, and unlock higher bandwidth connections so that the 1800p full resolution can support the 120 refresh rate. I'd also love to see this monitor be able to support reverse charging beyond 30 watts, as more powerful PC handhelds that are running at higher TDPs may still slowly drain over time without supplemental power. A 3.5mm audio jack would also be a very welcomed addition, as would an inbuilt battery. Though to be fair, most OLED portable monitors on the market right now that do have inbuilt batteries can only support a max of 60 Hz. Outside of that, I think the UPERFECT OLED 3K monitor is an incredible accessory for gaming and productivity. And if you guys use the following codes over on their dedicated website, you'll receive $50 to $60 off your monitor purchase. Again, if you're interested in any of the products covered in this video, definitely make sure to check out the description to learn more. And if you have any specific questions or follow-ups, drop them down below. And as always, thanks for watching and supporting the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one.